Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt the vibe shift? Noticed a tiny flicker in a coworker's expression that everyone else missed, or felt physically exhausted after just a few hours of socializing? Before we dive into the fascinating and often misunderstood biology of the highly sensitive brain, let's start with a classic logic puzzle to test your cognitive focus. Listen closely. A father and son are in a car accident. The father dies at the scene and the son is rushed to the hospital. At the hospital, the surgeon looks at the boy and says, "I cannot operate on this child. He is my son." How is this possible? Take a moment to think. I will reveal the answer at the end of this video, along with a shocking pharmacological fact about why treating sensitive brains the wrong way can sometimes extinguish your creative spark entirely. When we talk about being highly sensitive, society often dismisses it as being too emotional or fragile. However, modern psychology tells us that sensory processing sensitivity is a highly heritable trait where the brain is literally wired to process the world more deeply than the average person. Clinical psychology often looks to Kazimierz Dobrowski's theory of positive disintegration to explain this. Sensitive individuals often possess innate overexcitabilities, meaning their nervous systems react to stimuli with extreme intensity, not just intellectually, but emotionally, imaginationally, and sensually. While this allows you to notice tiny environmental details others miss, it also makes you incredibly vulnerable to sensory overload and environmental stress. Why does this happen? Neuroimaging studies show that sensitive and gifted brains are structurally different. In a neurotypical brain, a massive neural pruning process happens around age 8 or 9 to streamline information. But highly sensitive brains often stay in an extended sponge phase, prioritizing rapid neural growth and absorption over organization. This means you can process macro-level complexities effortlessly, but you might feel a steep psychological price for this power. Because your brain is constantly scanning for micro-shifts in your environment, your alarm bell, the amygdala, is frequently triggered. Imagine your brain has two characters, the smart planner, the prefrontal cortex, and the alarm bell, the amygdala. When you are overwhelmed by loud noises, bright lights, or other people's heavy anxiety, your alarm bell goes off, perceiving these stimuli as literal physical threats to your survival. This floods your body with stress chemicals, effectively shutting down your smart planner. For the highly sensitive person, this isn't just a bad mood, it's a dorsal vagal freeze response. According to Dr. Stephen Porges' Polyvagal theory, when your system can't fight or flee from the constant sensory input, it pulls the plug. You feel frozen, numb, and heavy, a state of neurological shutdown designed to save the machine from total collapse. Many highly sensitive people grew up in the era of the sponge. If you were raised in a household with volatile personalities, you likely learned that your role was not to be a child, but to be a stabilizer. You learned to absorb the anger and quiet judgments of the adults around you, suppressing your own needs to keep the peace. This creates a psychological blueprint of chronic compliance, but the body eventually keeps the score. Trauma expert Dr. Gabor Maté has shown that repressing your feelings and absorbing external stress throws your internal physiology into chaos, which can lead to biological diseases and accelerated cellular aging. There is also a double-edged sword known as self-reflective rumination. Sensitive people spend a massive amount of time in their own heads, analyzing feelings and past experiences. While this is fantastic for creativity, it drastically increases the risk of spiraling into existential depression. Furthermore, you may experience social isolation not because you lack social skills, but because there is an optimum adjustment range for communication. If your brain is operating on a vastly different neurological frequency, processing details 10 steps ahead of the crowd, genuine connection can feel impossible, leading to a devastating sense of being an outsider. So, how do you master a brain that feels everything? If you feel your chest get tight or your mind go on tilt, Step away from the stimulus immediately. This physically helps burn off stress chemicals and wakes your smart planner back up. Flexible boundaries. Understand that you are not a tragic victim of your sensitivity. Enacting boundaries is an act of evolutionary intelligence. You must secure your own survival before you can help the tribe. Avoid the zombie trap. If you seek treatment, be aware that some common medications can cause emotional blunting, making you feel like a robot and temporarily extinguishing your creative spark. Work with professionals who understand the creativity paradox. Remember, you are not broken. You are just operating on a vastly different neurological frequency. Now, back to our riddle. The surgeon says, "I cannot operate on this child. He is my son." Did you figure it out? The answer is, the surgeon is the boy's mother. If you overanalyzed it, don't worry. That's just a hallmark of your high-processing mind. If you found this deep dive helpful, hit the like button and subscribe to keep exploring the clinical mechanics of the human mind. Let me know your thoughts on being an HSP in the comments below. See you in the next video.